And we are live. Hi, everyone. It's Rochie, and we're back. Yes, after 3 weeks of vacation, little vacation here at home because we're still not leaving, we're still not going anywhere. We're back at Getting Candid with Rochie, and we are very fortunate tonight because we have a very interesting topic, and I think it came in time because we just had our first Filipino gold medalist in the Olympics. So we will be talking about raising Phil-Am kids because, as you know, there's so many Phil-Ams who are representing the U.S. as well in the Olympics. And with that, I just want to introduce to you my guest tonight. She's an amazing friend. I think she's one of my longtime friends already now. And she is the founder of the Filipino School of New York and New Jersey. Please welcome Miss Vanessa.
Hi everyone. Hi Rochie.
Hi, Vanessa. Okay, guys, before we start, I just want to let you know you can join in our discussion anytime. Just type in your questions, experiences, or comments, and we're more than happy to answer them, react to them, and hope you'll join us in this interesting conversation. And guess what? We already have one comment here, and I want to show it. It's from Tito Ben. Where is everyone?
They're coming.
Tito Ben, it's Filipino time, right? Yeah. Okay, so first question, okay? Vanessa, are you a first generation Filipino American?
Yes, I am. I was born in Hawaii, and both of my parents were born in Cavite, in the Philippines. They migrated here through my father.
Mhm. So basically, you are born and raised in the US because Hawaii is still US,
Yes,
right?
yes. Yeah.
So, what was the big difference from Hawaii and the mainland?
So when my parents moved from the Philippines to the U.S., he was in the military, so that's how he was able to immigrate from the Philippines. He petitioned my mom. He was stationed in Hawaii, and that's why I was born there. But then while he was active in the military, every 2 years we would move from place to place. So from there, I don't really remember a lot, so I can't really compare. When I was two, we moved to Maryland, stayed there for another 2 years. My younger brother was born there. Then we moved to Massachusetts, and that's where we pretty much grew up. And that's when I remember a lot of how family life was. We grew up in Randolph, Massachusetts. It was a very small, at the time, Jewish. It was heavily Jewish. There. But then, over the years, it became more and more diverse. There was actually a large Filipino family there from Pangasinan who we
Mhm.
became friends with. And, because we grew up in a very small family, we don't have a lot of relatives here in the States. It was pretty much my dad and my mom. So my parents wanted to meet other Filipinos. And you crave that, especially if you're an
Mhm.
immigrant. So, growing up, we would go to other Filipino families' parties. There were other small organizations in Massachusetts. So that's how the whole, introduction to Filipinos and Filipino culture started when I was
Mhm.
growing up.
Yeah, so you reminded me of we had another episode before. It was with Joko's mom,
Oh,
and
really?
and she was also raising kids. But
Oh,
I
yeah.
think
Yes.
yeah, because he was she was raising Phil Am kids, but it just reminded me of that episode because
Yeah.
I would say she is more of the generation of our parents, and
Yes.
we are like the next generation.
Yes.
So speaking of generation gaps, or, uh, did your parents speak to you in Tagalog growing up?
Um, yes, I think for the most part, yes. So in our household, we ended up living with my grandfather on my mom's side, my grandmother and my father's side. Some of my cousins lived with us. So being in a household full of family and extended family, you hear it all the time. Um, and then I guess my parents just ended up talking to me and maybe even my brother and my sister, but I picked it up more than they did. And just being surrounded in that type of environment, you get to hear it all the time. So yeah, they.
But you don't consider yourself fluent, right?
I think
Like
I
a switch.
do.
You do.
So when I do speak Tagalog, I speak it more with here. I'm in New Jersey now.
Mhm.
I speak it with my in-laws. But funny, my in-laws are from Iloilo, so I would hear sometimes they'll mix in Ilonggo, and I don't know what they're saying. I'm trying, but I just let it slide. And then obviously when I talk to my parents, Tagalog and English. So yeah, I still keep with it, or even like older Filipinos, it would just automatically come out.
Yeah, that's nice because that is actually one of the major challenges
Mm,
I think we Filipinos experience
yeah.
because with our children because the Philippines is already speaking in English
Yes, which is
generally.
kind of sad, I think.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
because that's what when they asked me because I am born and
Yeah.
raised in the Philippines, but
Hmm.
I just realized I already spent half of my lifetime,
Yeah.
and on November I will be more a year more than my lifetime, so half
Wow.
more
Wow.
than half. So I would say I've been
Yeah.
Americanized that way already
Uh-huh.
so much, but then uh, growing up in the Philippines, most people would ask me,
Yeah.
is like, oh, how is, you speak Tagalog and this one, and then why are you very good in English? And I said,
Mm.
well, basically, English is the language that binds the Philippines together
Oh,
because
true. Yeah.
we got like for example most of those who are Bisaya, Ilonggo, most of
Hmm.
them may not know Tagalog that well, but they do know English because English is taught in schools. I always tell them we got the
Yeah.
subjects since I would say since kindergarten will be language arts, which is
Hmm.
in English, and then there's language arts in Filipino,
Yeah.
and then math and science are actually in English. They are taught in English, so all the books are in English.
Wow. Okay.
And then I would say I would Filipino history or what we call
Mhm.
like history, that the book is in Tagalog. So it
Okay.
looks like that's why they were tell most I remember some people would ask, why are Filipinos look like they have a switch button? Like an
Wow.
on off button.
Yes.
Because that's how we are in schools. If your
Mhm.
first period is for example math, so you
Mhm.
are speaking in English in math, and then if your second period is in
Mhm.
history, then you suddenly switch books and then the
Mhm.
language itself is switched.
Right.
So that's how it is. Oh, here's
Mhm.
one comment. It's hard to teach
Yeah,
Tagalog in a mixed language household.
that is
Yes,
true.
that is so true because it happened in our family.
Mhm.
Um, I would say English is actually my first language, even though I was born in the Philippines, because my mom was an English professor.
Oh.
So what she did is she said you will learn the Tagalog anyway, so
Mhm.
might as well start with English, and then I got I pick up Tagalog once I went to school, and then the yayas or the nanny would speak in Tagalog, but
Mhm.
aside from that everybody speaks English. So
Yeah.
anyway, in our household when my kids were growing up, I tried to speak to them in Tagalog because they said
Yeah.
one should speak in English, should speak in Tagalog. The problem is my husband is Bisaya, so his Tagalog
Um,
is broken. Like his Tagalog is Taglish
uh-huh.
because he is Bisaya. And then for me, I said my first language is actually English. So sometimes there are some words that I'm speaking Taglish.
Yeah,
So it
yeah,
did happen. It's hard because my kids now are asking, why didn't Tatay, because that's what they
yeah.
call their dad, taught us in Tagalog? He has bad
Wow.
Tagalog.
So they are asking. Yes, kids are starting to ask, as they get older. I guess now, I guess generations have changed where, when our parents came here and immigrated, they wanted us to be safe, and that's why they encouraged us to speak English. I mean, pretty much the majority of, our generation. And then now with our kids growing up in America, and even other countries, they see there's more diversity, learning more languages, and then also pride in your own culture, like
Mhm.
being Filipino. So they're starting to look more towards their, what am I? How do I fit in? Why do other cultures speak languages as easily as like the Chinese or other groups, but why not Filipino? Why are you talking to me in English? Exactly. And I hear you talking Tagalog to the adults, but why not me? I want to learn.
Yeah.
So yeah. Hmm.
Actually, in my family, when my oldest was born,
Hmm.
my mom told me to speak to her in Tagalog the way,
Yeah.
she taught me back then, which is reversed, right, in the
Hmm.
Philippines. Because she told me once she goes to school, she would pick English up like crazy.
Hmm.
So actually, when she went to first grade, oh, kindergarten, when she actually went to kindergarten, she qualified for ESL.
Oh.
Because she does. I mean, she got like the most basic English, like what is your name and this one. And for one weird reason, we are in a
Mhm.
majority white community.
Yeah.
So, and then it's funny because at that time it's a Catholic school. They said, I think it will benefit if she gets like an ESL. So they told me to
Yeah.
call the public school because the Catholic school has an Irish,
Mhm.
has an Italian, Polish,
Mhm.
and that and other languages, French, but they
Yeah.
don't have Filipino because they thought there's no need to have any
Yeah.
Filipino, right? Or
Yeah.
Tagalog. And then I went to our town school district. They look for, instructors that they could have. There's
Mhm.
no Filipino because they told me all Filipinos are
Mhm.
English speakers.
Yeah.
And it was so funny because she would say words like when she
Mhm.
goes to the teacher, she's like, "Can I have a tissue, please?" And
Mhm.
then like why? And then because
Yeah.
and she's like, "Cause I have sipon, I have
Oh.
sipon." And then they're like, "What? What? What are you
Yeah.
trying to say?" I just need a tissue
Mhm.
because that's what she knows. Instead of saying,
Yeah.
"I got a runny nose,"
Yeah.
but and then I told her, you know what? We'll try to speak to her in English more.
Yeah.
And then eventually, after 4 months, she just became so fluent in English. And now she's already 18. It's
Yeah.
hard for her to speak in Tagalog. I mean, she totally understands. Like, that's why she said, I
Mhm.
don't want to hang out with
Yeah.
Filipino moms because they said they
Mhm.
keep on, she's missing.
Oh,
She's
yeah, because
missing.
she can hear it. She understands what they're saying.
She totally understands everything.
Mhm.
And then, but she just have to answer in English.
Oh, okay.
Or she would answer some Tagalog like kain na,
Okay.
opo,
Mhm.
like that. But I think it's the
Yeah.
grammar that's off.
I
Yeah.
think it's fine. I mean, especially her age, at least she has the basic understanding. She's speaking it a little. I mean, there's a lot, like through the Filipino school, a lot of the students we have for the adult language program, they have no level of, nothing. They don't know anything. We also have students who are not Filipino because, they have spouses or they want to visit the Philippines. So your daughter is ahead, I would say. And again, she's still young. She could still practice with maybe, other native speakers.
Yeah, yeah, that
Yeah.
will be good. So later we'll talk about the school.
Oh,
So going back, how do you
mhm.
keep that Filipino culture alive in your household?
So because of my upbringing, my husband's also Filipino American, but he doesn't speak as fluently as I do. But again, because we're surrounded by family, we, I mean, what else do we do? I take my kids to Filipino school events if I can. They see me working on Filipino school stuff. I watch Filipino movies on Netflix, and they will watch with me. So every chance I get, I will try to embed something Filipino, and I would speak Taglish. I mean, it's hard because my husband speaks English, so they understand, and I mean that's how I try to keep it alive there. And if they have something in school that relates to a country or heritage day, of course they're going to represent the Philippines, and they do enjoy learning about being Filipino. Yeah.
That's good. Because when my kids were younger, I actually asked my
Mhm.
mom to ship me those Filipino books.
Oh yeah.
So they have the
Mhm.
books, and it's actually like they have English, Tagalog on one side, and
Mhm.
then English on the other side, so they could read. I was like, it's funny because they could actually read in
Mhm.
Filipino,
Oh,
because it's
nice. Okay.
but sometimes they don't understand what they're reading.
Oh, well, it is harder to read it versus listening. Reading
I
and writing
Yeah.
are hard.
I
Yeah.
think they like the reading because I said
Mhm.
just sound it out like
Mhm.
A, E, I, O, U. That's so easy.
Yeah.
Unlike in English, which is different pronunciations, and I said
Yeah.
it's so basic, so they could read it, but
Mhm.
sometimes because it has so much syllables for
Oh
one
yeah.
word, they're like, "What did I say?" Like sometimes they say, "Pamayanan." They're like, "What?" It just means community. They're like, okay. And then sometimes it's really like very long word. And what does it mean? They're like, I exerted so much effort on the syllables.
Yes. Oh,
Oh,
oh gosh, that's
it's
funny.
so funny. And then I bet they go to parties, they have Filipino food.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
of course the food. My in-laws are here. They cook Filipino food. We go to Filipino restaurants. So yeah.
That is good. So they actually know? Because my kids now are teenagers, and they actually, you know, Google everything. So
Mm,
they do follow Filipino American, actors,
mhm.
singers, which I like because sometimes they're telling me, "Oh, you know that Nicole, this one is Filipino." I'm like, who? And
Oh.
like, I don't know. And they're like, the Pussycat Girls, and
Yeah.
because they know. And because maybe I don't listen to that music. And then they're like, yeah, she does look Filipino, but she's tall,
Uh-huh.
like those things. But they're like, no, we researched everything already.
Oh wow. Yeah, my kids are not there yet. I'm the one doing that. I'm the one pointing out. But if they
Yeah,
see
but
the flag, like during the Olympics, they'll say, "Mommy, look, that lady's from the Philippines," or yeah.
that's good.
Mhm.
No, how in general, how do you say how Pinoy are your kids?
I mean, I wouldn't say like super Pinoy. Um, I don't know. I guess that's subjective. I guess.
Yeah.
Uh, I think they're Pinoy enough at their age. I mean, I could probably
Yeah.
do more. I wish I were closer to my parents and my siblings because I feel like, there's more family and they'll be exposed as much as I was growing up. I think so far they're good enough. I mean, I'd like them to be more fluent, but again, you know how hard it is
It
to
is.
just have them
Okay.
talk and speak. Yeah.
Okay. So Tito got some messages here. Don't you think that it's better for your children to learn, okay,
Yes.
while they're little,
Mhm.
since they will learn English in school?
It is.
It is
Definitely.
definitely
Mhm.
right. Because for
Yeah.
me, from my experience, my 18-year-old is now like she was very
Mhm.
fluent in Filipino before. Actually, I remember she was when she was 4. I was asking her to watch some cartoons, like
Mhm.
Beauty and the Beast in that one. And she said, I don't like it. And
Oh.
and I said, why you don't like it? And I realized she doesn't understand it. She watches the telenovela from TFC.
Oh.
She never watched the cartoons because she said, I can't understand it.
Oh.
I never realized that until she went to
Yeah.
school. Because
Okay.
when she was in school, she was telling me, like, Mom, what is the, the
Mhm.
synonyms for certain words? And then she would, and I tried to find another word to explain it, and she's like, I don't understand. And then I tried to explain it to her in Tagalog.
Mhm.
She get it. Now she
Um,
knew that that word in
mhm.
English means this word in Tagalog, which
Right.
is funny because there's some Filipino words that you can't that has no English
That's
translation.
true. Yeah.
And then from my experience, the other two in the middle, I would say they're not as fluent
Mhm.
because they had an interpreter, which is the
Okay.
sister. Because like sometimes I'm forcing them to like I would talk to them in Tagalog, and if they
Yeah.
don't understand me, for
Mhm.
me it's like try to figure it out. There's an interpreter who's gonna say, she just told you to pick that up.
Oh.
So I think they're not as fluent, and then
Mhm.
the youngest now is more fluent because
Okay.
when everybody went to school, he was the one left. So
Yeah.
he has no choice but to try to understand me.
Well, that's
So now when they grew up, I said, now I know the difference. So what happens?
yeah.
Because
Yeah.
he's like, it's only two of us at home and I don't understand. So I try to
Exactly.
figure out.
Well, that's how I learned also. Like one summer, so we had our Lola living with us. My dad was hoping she would learn English, but just spending a summer with her, I was just fully immersed because we weren't doing anything while we were on vacation during the summertime while my parents were working, and I thought I'd be teaching her, but she's starting to tell stories. I like the ghost stories. I mean,
Uh
from
huh.
back in the
Yeah.
province, and you know, I just got intrigued and I just wanted her to keep talking and talking to me. And then I just started, slowly trying to talk back to her or even my parents. They didn't make fun of me. So I thought that was helpful, just practicing.
Actually, that made sense because I
Mm-hmm.
had my cousins who were when they were older than me, but they moved when they were very young, like kindergarten,
Mm-hmm.
first grade. And then my aunt didn't she would speak in Tagalog and everything, but
Mm-hmm.
they're speaking in English. And then eventually when they wanted to learn Tagalog, they would laugh. Most people would laugh at them because of
Yeah.
the accent and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why they're like, I don't want to speak it anymore
Mm-hmm.
because I feel embarrassed.
Yes. No, that's true. I mean, and that's why a lot of young adults or even teenagers are afraid or they're scared. They don't want to be teased.
Mhm.
But I mean, I know the adults think it's natutuwa, right?
Yeah.
But the way yeah, it just comes off the wrong way. They like it. Yeah. Oh
Oh,
boy.
so let's talk more about the challenges
The
of
challenge.
of raising kids aside from the language.
Mhm.
Like, I think it's tough to teach the language. In your
Yeah.
experience, how hard it is to you know to teach it.
I think in the beginning, especially when I just had my first child, there's not a lot of resources, the educational resources. Um, so you just look to see what's online. You start seeing the books, the videos, and then nowadays there's more and more, especially Filipino American authors. But when I was doing putting together the Filipino school to see what educational materials we could use. I even reached out in the Philippines and was just surprised that they didn't have a lot of the language books available as an example. So that was just surprising. So now, if you look again, there are other people online that are putting together or creating language materials. So now I feel like we're at a place where there's more access to these resources. So I think it's just, a matter of how do we teach our kids using these. And it's hard because our generation, we're not as fluent. We're in this weird space where we want our kids to learn it. They want to learn it, but there's just this disconnect, because there was no continuation of sharing the language and, handing it down from generation to generation like other cultures. So I think this is the opportunity for us as parents or, proponents of Philippine culture to start. And it's happening, I'm glad our language will not get lost. Even though we are a mainly English-speaking country, but back in the Philippines now, I think the government has also realized the difference in the different areas in the Philippines, the languages, and how if instruction is taught in a specific region's language, it is helpful for the community, and it also helps the language survive. So again, I think it's new awareness, new appreciation, and yeah.
Because I remember with my kids, when I would say what they learn is mostly like the root words, like kain, takbo, and everything. But then when we put like, and then when my oldest again, because she's the one who's actually like wanted to learn the proper grammar, that's when we had a hard time because Filipino, or I would say Tagalog grammar, is so difficult to teach.
Yeah. It's not like Spanish or all those other languages you learn. There's no proper way of learning it.
Yeah, or there's no rules, because the thing she asked me is like, what are the rules? I said, what do you mean rules? Like past tense, you put D or ED, ing if it's a present tense.
Oh, we don't have that.
and then the future, I'm like, we don't. I said, oh, we have those, but it's like we don't have rules. And she's like, what do you mean rules? You put something, you put a syllable in the middle, and she's like, what kind of syllable? It depends on the word.
Yeah.
And it's funny, like there was a few times, I mean, until now, sometimes they would tell me, they're like, Nanay, let's go kaingin. And I'm like, what's kaingin? They're put kain with ing. Instead of saying kumakain, they put ing. And I'm like,
they're mixing English too.
and I'm like, no, that's not it. But they're like, how is it? And for me, it's also hard. Like tumakbo, you put it in the middle.
Yes.
But I would say it's one of those, but let them speak. Because for me, what I learned from my experience is that if you just talk to them, even root words, they would pick it up. As long as they know the root word, they would look at it. Right?
I agree.
Like when I say tulog, they know it's time to go to sleep. Or at least, and then sometimes if I had like those words in between, as long as they hear the word tulog, then you got it.
They know the context pretty much. Yeah.
Okay. Another challenge is how you deal with it for their identity. Because they're going to school now. You're in Jersey City, right?
So in Bergen County. We actually moved.
Oh, you moved. Oh, there's still a lot of Filipinos there. Right?
Yes. Yep.
So when they're in school, are there any issues with their identity, or how do you handle if they ask questions?
For us, I don't think so, just because we are in a, well-populated, diverse community. And again, their upbringing and the way we raise them, they know and appreciate being Filipino. But then, I thought about families who don't have that luxury, who grow up in communities where they're the minority, maybe the only families. Like, how do they deal with that? I mean, I can only imagine and only share what I would think would be helpful. Maybe, thank goodness for the internet. But if it's a face-to-face type of relationship and learning experience, if there's no Filipinos, then if there's other cultures, that would be helpful. But I mean, again, with my kids, they just know, and they haven't questioned, and they know they're Filipino American.
Mhm.
Yeah.
How about I would say how do
Mhm.
you handle the differences sometimes in the culture itself?
Um, so I haven't gotten that deep yet. I think they're still young, but I guess there is a difference between Filipino Americans who are born here versus those who are in the Philippines. So they've been to the Philippines, once to meet family, and they loved it. But we were able to stay in the provinces. I mean, I think there was a little bit of culture shock, but we taught them, we prepared them in advance, but they had fun, with the animals and the jeepneys and cold water, the shower,
The
the
shower.
tabo, all of that. They want to go back, so I don't. Yeah.
Are there discipline when you discipline your kids? Because I don't know if because Americans, they would say go to your room, lock your room,
Mhm.
and that's it. And my kids are like, that's not gonna happen in our house.
Oh boy.
You,
So
yeah,
growing up, maybe this is the same as you. Um, you know, Immigrant parents would use the slippers or some type of form of, I wouldn't say corporal, is it corporal punishment? So it worked. I thought it was, my parents were strict, but they meant well. But now in America, with all the rules of child abuse and, the child has rights. So, when my husband and I started talking about how we would discipline our children, we're like, no spanking. So it's like time out. This is all new to us because
yeah.
does it work really? And, all the other families are doing it. So, yeah, I mean, again, there's a change in culture, change in generation. Sometimes I'm tempted to use I'm going to use the slipper because you're not listening to me. But, we've learned, out of habit not to do that. It's more talking, let's talk this out, or do you need time out, or, so yeah, that's what we do now for discipline.
My kids hid my slippers.
Oh, oh, they did?
No, because when they were young, I'm like, you want, because I would ask them, do you want the palo, which is like from the
Mhm.
slippers, or you want the kurot, which is
Oh,
the pinch?
yeah.
So sometimes when we go out, like if it's hard to discipline them, like
Mhm.
they're acting up. I was like, what do you like? Do you like the palo or the kurot? You know what they said? No, nanay, thank you very much.
And they were nice about it too.
And most people are that it's like
No,
for them it's like it's a
no.
good signal not to go because you're gonna be in trouble when you get home. And then it's funny because when they're like saying, I think some people are thought
Mhm.
that because we're in a white community, maybe those
Mhm.
moms were thinking, oh, they're giving like candies or treats or options for them, that's why they started to behave.
Oh, yeah.
Because what do you like? And they're like,
No.
and now they're laughing. And I said, you know what? I always lose my slippers, and then I think when now they get older, like we always hid your
Mhm.
slippers. We threw it in the
Oh,
garbage.
they admitted. That's
Yeah,
hilarious.
because usually I don't hit them, but they would see that the slippers are flying.
You
Like
just
I'll
hold it. You threaten.
no,
Like,
I will try to throw it on them,
you threaten.
and yeah, because I don't. So they're like, we saw flying slippers, so we hide them. And I said, you know what? How much I pay for those, slippers? And they're like, we just realized they're only like $1 or $2.
Store.
We saw it at the Asian store. Now like they're laughing, but I don't really like the
Mhm.
pala. I think it's like the last resort, and usually it's just
Yeah.
a threat. But by the end of the day, they don't. But they knew what was coming if you just
You know,
cross the line.
nowadays, because of the video games, that's what we use as punishment. So if they
Mhm.
don't behave, they don't finish their homework on time, you're not allowed to play video games. And they will go crazy. They will lose it. So yeah.
It's
Yeah.
different, right? Do you practice mano po?
With the
The
older.
bless? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Hmm.
But do you use it? I mean, before I don't like it, but now I'm using it for my kids because I'm like, how can I teach them if I'm not accepting my age?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
yeah, usually what I do is that when we
Hmm.
go to church,
Hmm.
after church they do manopo. So if they see other Filipinos in church, they would actually do
Oh,
manopo in
okay.
church.
You're good
You,
then. I
yeah,
forget. I used to
yeah,
do it when they were little, but then I just forgot. And then, with COVID, I mean,
yeah.
they
Well,
were
well,
like,
good COVID now, right?
yeah.
But I think
Mhm,
it's a good practice because it's one of those.
mhm,
Because a few times, like
mhm,
last Sunday, I saw because there's like a couple of I would say a white couple behind us, and then after
mhm,
church, like when the mass was over, they were doing that, and then they could hear me say "God bless you," and they're like, "Oh," and they're all taller than me. For
Oh,
my kids are all taller than me, but at least. And what do your kids call you? I mean,
oh, they just call me mom. They call their grandparents Lola and Lola, and their aunts and uncles either auntie, uncle, or tita, tito.
mhm.
So yeah, they use that. But me and my husband, it's just mom and dad.
Oh,
But each other, they have the kuya because my oldest is a
yeah,
boy, kuya, then ate, and then the youngest one is a boy.
yeah.
So they
So
call each
that
other
Yeah, we did that one too. Ate Kuya. And
that.
it's
Hmm.
funny because I remember the youngest too. Another
Hmm.
story. So he's already in school, and you have to write the name of your siblings.
Hmm.
And and he's like, it's Ate. And then, because the teachers knew the other siblings because they were their past students, he
Uh-huh.
kept on writing Ate, and then Kuya, and then we call the other sister DC. It's supposed to
Hmm.
be Ditse,
Okay.
which is number two, but
Hmm.
the when we had the first boy, he's like, he can't say Ditse, so it became DC. And then the teachers were like, why are you calling them on their names, because they know the names. And he's like,
Yeah.
and then when he got home, he said, I don't know the names of my siblings. And he's like, what is your name? It's like, I never used it. Because he said, oh, my teachers keep on telling me to write my siblings names,
Mhm.
and I don't know it. That was so funny because he got so used to it. Crazy, right?
Um,
Okay, now here's one question. Have your kids thought that they are not American enough?
no,
Or they
I
they
think
asked something about that? Or
no.
nope.
They have not. No, they have not.
I
Yeah.
think because you're in a more diverse
Yeah.
place, right?
Mhm. I think so.
Hmm. Right, because I remember when we first moved here, my
Hmm.
son was actually touching the old people's hair in
Oh,
church because
really?
they're blonde.
Wow.
So he was not used to it.
Hmm.
Because everybody in the house has dark hair. So
Yeah.
when he like that, oh, it's like Barbie, and then the old people are like, especially the older ones, they're like, it's fine, you're cute, and this one, and I'm like, why are you touching it? And he said Barbie, like
Oh,
because he was like, because it's
yeah.
the sister's toy.
Yes.
And we were like laughing. And then I said, now the grandma loves you because you call them Barbie.
Barbie and
And
Ken.
they felt fabulous now. And you're like, they're like, you're a good kid. Yeah, but we remember like he would touch, in
Mhm.
the pews of the church, he would walk
Yeah.
and touch everybody's hair like that.
Now, was this your older son or which?
Yes, he's
Okay.
actually the third one, the oldest
Oh,
son.
okay. Okay.
Yeah, so
Oh,
it was so
wow.
cute.
Yeah, I think I'm just sheltered in this whole diverse thing, but hearing stories of where, families grow up in predominantly white cultures, that's, those are interesting stories.
Yeah, because actually
Mhm.
in our town,
Mhm.
my daughter, who's in junior year right now,
Mhm.
she's the only Filipino in her batch.
Wow.
Yeah, actually, this year she started too because one family moved and they're on the same batch. And she's like, I thought I'm
Oh.
graduating as the only Filipino. And I said, you still got 1 year. Maybe he'll move again. No, because
Oh my
there are
God.
the Hispanics and that one. But,
Mhm.
even the Hispanics is like there's from Colombia, from Ecuador, so
Mhm.
it's very. But for her, she's
Yeah.
like, I thought I should have the crown of the only Filipino. And then he came in our sophomore year.
Well, he's the boy version. He's a boy one. You're the girl.
And it's funny because he's like, it's fine. All the other kids still know that you're the only
Mhm.
Filipino. No. Speaking of, now, teaching
Mhm.
the culture is actually very hard. I mean, I would say sometimes it's
Mhm.
complicated, right?
Yeah.
So it's good that we have your Filipino school because like for us here, my kids knew that their friends who's like they have a friend who's half
Mhm.
Chinese, half Polish.
Mhm.
Guess what? She goes to Chinese school
Chinese
and
school.
Polish
Mhm.
school. And then there are the others that they go to the Vietnamese school, like those
Mhm.
things. But with the
Yeah.
Filipinos, we don't really have that. And that's why I'm
Mhm.
glad that you had the Filipino school. So, what was the inspiration behind it?
So it's pretty much that. There was none. But I grew up in Massachusetts. There is one there. It's Eskwelahan Filipino, and we were students there. And it's a really great school. It's still running. It's volunteer run, and they do a great job just keeping the families together and sharing the culture that way. And then when I moved to New York, I worked in a Filipino nonprofit. It's called FASI, Filipino
Oh, yeah.
American Human Services. So that
Mm-hmm.
was in Jamaica, Queens, which is also predominantly Filipinos. And just learning the ways of the community and meeting everyone. I got to know what Queens was like, especially in that area. But then when I moved to New Jersey, and then started thinking, because I was at that age where I'm going to settle down, have a family, and my friends are also having families of their own. We started talking. How come there's no school? We want to teach the language and all of that to our kids. So that got me thinking. Let me see if there's anything here. But I did my research. There are organizations that would have a program, or
Mm-hmm.
I've learned of something happening in a school in New York City that was there, but then no longer is no longer around. It's just they just don't they're not sustainable and they don't last long. So I'm like, all right, let's try to come up with some let's establish something for our community and for us. So it was like a group of us just brainstorming ideas. What do you think? Um, how should we do this? So we started off with a kids program. We piloted that, and I was living in Jersey City at the time. So most of the programs that started um, came out of Jersey City. And it took me about 3 years to actually start piloting before we started thinking about it and planning. And from the children's program, we also did adult language.
Mm-hmm.
And then, just those were our two primary ones, then added the Filipino dance portion of it. And then I had to move from Jersey City to Bergen County because, we were starting to have our own family. And then I'm like, oh wow, Bergen County has a lot of Filipinos. So everywhere I'm going,
Yep.
there's all Filipinos. So Bergenfield, for example, is another area. So I'm like, you know what? Let's start bringing the programs to the communities. Because people talk about having a community center. I personally don't think that would be viable, just because we're so spread out. You know,
Yeah.
and I think it would be hard for families to go to one location. And
Mhm.
building, there's a lot of expenses, and it won't be able to last long also. So I got the idea of a community based, we go out into the community where there is need. Because I used to work at Liberty Science Center, and they had the traveling science program,
Yeah.
which went
Mhm.
into the schools in the city or inner cities. So I'm like, why not we do that? Because we're meeting the demand, and that way we're not just creating something that we think the community needs. And let's say we do that, no one shows up, and that's just a
Mhm.
waste of time and resources, as opposed to doing it the other way, responding. So we're here as a service for everybody. And then that's how we started, just based on the needs. And right now we are, gosh, 11, 12 years old now. We were founded in 2008,
Wow.
and we've expanded. Now that there's COVID, everything's, we're doing virtual classes. We're just hesitating about the whole going back to in-person classes, just because of the
Mhm.
whole situation right now. But if we can do a community one, it's outdoor. Um, Most likely, because most of the people are comfortable with that. We survey our constituents also to see what they want. So yeah, I mean, that's how we all started, because there was nothing here in New York and New Jersey, which was surprising. And we just learned, from other organizations that tried it, what worked and what didn't work. We also looked at the Chinese schools. I talked to the presidents
Yeah.
and heads of those schools. How do you do it? And just took pieces of what worked for each one, and came up with something that would work for us. You
Mhm.
know.
What do you think was the challenge? Because I remember, like, with other cultures like the Chinese, the
Mhm.
Vietnamese, they actually have a community center and they all
Yeah.
go there. And I'm surprised, like they would have like, like sometimes even the Catholics, they have like a
Hmm.
Vietnamese mass because they are all there and then they
Yeah.
continue. And in our parish, actually, we not right now, but we used to host the biggest Taiwanese community
Hmm.
in New Jersey, the Catholic ones. They go to our parish and then they stay there. And I'm like, where are all the Filipinos? And we're like, like they don't even know who's the parishioner
Hmm.
because the next mass, that's
Hmm.
where the Filipino goes if they're late.
uh,
So what do you think is
yeah.
that challenge? Is it cultural or
I think it's cultural. I mean, everyone knows about this whole crab mentality. And I think it's because of, again, for me, I think it's the generational thing. It could also be regional. But, I personally encountered, like, when, for example, I would go into the community, I would ask to put up flyers for a program, let's say. I would get maybe one or two comments saying, why do you have a school? Why do you need to teach Tagalog? No one wants to learn Tagalog. We're all speaking English. But,
oh.
okay. So, so, comments like that are not, you know, I guess positive, are, there are other organizations or people who just don't want to partner with you. They just want to do their own thing. So I don't know. I'm
Mhm.
just trying to understand, but I felt like that shouldn't stop us from doing what we want to
Yeah.
do. We just reach out to the ones who want to support us and work together with them. But it is unfortunate that we're not at the capacity as the other groups, which I don't know how to solve that.
No,
Yeah,
actually, that is something
yeah,
that I'm surprised with. But when you say it's probably regional, because I
right.
know there are, like, I would say the Batangueños group, the
Yeah.
Ilocano group, and
Mhm.
I think they're, yeah, they have more of those regional prides. than
Yeah.
just being Tagalog. Well, I don't know, maybe because actually they say in the Philippines
Mm-hmm.
Bisaya is the supposed to be the national language because more
Oh,
people spoke no, more people
is it?
actually spoke it because all
Hmm.
the Visayas in the Mindanao region speaks it.
Oh, that's
Unlike the
interesting.
Tagalog, which is in Luzon, but it's not
Mm-hmm.
only Tagalog because we have the
Yeah.
Ilocano, the
Yeah.
other Kapampangan, everything.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what they said. If you write it down by the numbers, it's supposed to be Bisaya. That's what
Mm,
they said. So,
interesting.
yo.
Maybe we should be teaching Visaya, but no.
Oh gosh,
Yeah, but
And it's I'm Tagalog. That's why I'm laughing because you know the original thing about Bisaya and Tagalog. No, but it's interesting, and
hmm.
I think we should be at because now with my kids, I realize most of them really wanted to learn
Oh, yeah.
Tagalog.
I think they're at that age now because, they're becoming adults. And again, I think they're trying to learn more about themselves and where they fit in,
Hmm.
who they are, what is my role, how can I contribute to this world or community. So that's the age when we start having people who are actually coming to us, um, looking for these programs, like the language, especially. So,
Yeah. Oh, tell us more about that language program because I know
um,
some people would like to to
sure.
learn that.
So we currently offer adult online language courses. So we have a beginner one, a beginner two, and they're offered usually all throughout the year, depending on the instructor's availability. They meet once a week for 5 weeks for 2 hours, usually in the evening from 6:30 to 8:30. And our groups are as large as maybe 12, but we like the whole intimacy thing, and we find that pretty much most, if not all, of the cohorts that go through our language programs, they form a very tight bond with each other, and they continue their relationship beyond the classroom. So when they finish, they're still keeping in touch. They want to get together again, even with the teacher involved. So I feel like that's just one of the unique things about our organization. We're able to build this sense of community, like the whole little family unit. And that's what I experienced growing up in Massachusetts, through my family, us going out, into the community with other groups, Filipino parties, being part of another Filipino organization, or being part of the Filipino school there. Again, it's, because Filipinos are very familial. And
Mhm.
I think everyone should experience that, especially through our school. So, what else do we have? We have cultural dances for kids. So right now we're just we would like to continue doing in-person classes maybe in the fall, but we will see depending on the situation.
Mhm.
But other online classes, we have Finding Your Filipino Voice, which is taught by one of our instructors who has a background in opera music. And she teaches about the history of Filipino music from
Oh.
kundiman and all the way to like OPM and modern music. And the students there are also afforded the opportunity to like have voice lessons with her. And at the end of a 6-week program, they have this virtual recital, which is really awesome. They're also singing in Tagalog, which is really great. Um, and
That's
then what
nice.
else? Yeah, we also have Filipino American history, which we offered one of the semesters, so we can also bring that back. We also have our annual parol making workshop,
Yeah.
which we do around the holidays, and we're also trying out another workshop. Making vintas, the wooden boats. So
Yeah,
this is
the boat.
something new for us, and it's just something we'd like to add to our repertoire. But again, if there's a topic that people are interested in, we are open to making it happen and offering that. So. Mhm.
That's good. So, guys, if you have anybody in your community, because I know there's some like who are, I would say, in the same situation
Mhm.
as me, who is not much, is in an area where there's not much Filipinos. I
Mhm.
think, and you know, they would love to teach their children more, or be around with kids who are, who are also Filipino. I think it's good to have. So we will have the
Mhm.
link on your website later on
Thank
in the
you.
description box. So if you have any questions on that, you could contact Vanessa. And any coming
Yeah.
programs soon? Upcoming programs?
We do have our annual picnic, which is Sunday, August 29 from 11 to 2 o'clock, I believe, or 1 o'clock. That's going to be in Saddlebrook, New Jersey. And then we also have language courses again in the fall. So pretty much, if you follow our Facebook page, or we have also Instagram, and then like Rochie said, our website, you will see the calendar of events as we plan and finalize details. So hopefully you can join us in person or virtually. So
That's good. See, it's interesting. And they would have, because now my kids have their, they would say they have their Filipino friends because they're in the youth group,
uh-huh.
like from Youth for Christ,
Hmm.
CFC Youth. And they are like, it's funny because there's some of them are in South Jersey and they would meet online. And
Hmm.
they're on the same age, like high school
Right.
kids. It's so funny when they start saying, "Oh, my mom does that," or like, "My mom does that," or "Is your
Yeah.
mom listening?" Because my mom is listening too.
They can relate. No, see, that's great. That's all about like, sharing experiences, and they're alike, they're the same.
And it's funny because now if they have other friends, they're like, "Oh, I went to the youth group. I have a meeting." They would say, "Oh, I have a meeting now," because they're on Zoom. So I have a meeting at like 8 o'clock, and then they'll be like chatting. And then after an hour, 2 hours, then they would chat with their regular school friends, and they're like, "What did
Mhm.
you do?" "Oh, of course we started late because we're Filipino." They said 8 o'clock, and then it's supposed to be an hour, but now you would
It went
hear them.
over.
I'm like, yeah, that's a good way to share your being Filipino to your non-Filipino friends.
Oh
Oh,
man.
we have one question here. See, I almost
Mhm.
forgot.
Oh.
Okay, no, I've seen it. Do you have language classes in South Jersey?
So in person, not at the moment. I mean, before COVID, we would try to find a representative in those areas so that we can go out there and have a teacher and set up the programs. But at the moment, no. So that's why we have the virtual classes that are open to pretty much anyone that has access to the internet. And we do have students from the other side of the country, like California and Washington State as well. So um, depending on the pandemic, we could be there in South Jersey eventually, but we know there's a Filipino community there as well that we would like to reach out to. So hopefully someday soon.
Yes, yes, because I miss the
Mhm.
see, because I
Yeah.
haven't gone out, and I
Hmm.
hope because I really missed the. That was cute too. The
Hmm.
summer, the picnic, right? The
Oh,
Filipino
yes,
picnic
yes,
is
I remember. Yep, you were
fun.
there.
Yeah, I remember my kids. They were tiny, and they're like, "Oh,
Yeah.
we feel like we're the old kids." Well, guess what? You're older now. You're way.
No.
You're the sitters now. You're the ates and the kuyas.
Yes.
Mm.
Oh.
But it's fun because I had fun there, and I'm like, oh, hopefully we
Oh,
could
I'm
have that one
glad.
soon too, right?
Yeah, no, that was fun. I definitely remember you being there, and just it was just nice again.
Yeah, because actually that's what the some of the reaction of my kids before, like, who are
Mhm.
they? Oh, there's just another tito and tita, another extended family that I do not know.
Yeah, that was a big group actually. That was the one in Vanson Park. That it was. I remember it being
Yes,
very
yeah,
hot, but there were so many
yes.
people.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah. Hopefully we're gonna have that soon, right?
yeah,
Like a
yep.
big one.
In your area.
Yes, in my area. And we'll inviting non-Filipinos.
No, of course. The more, the better. I think it's easier that way to share our culture if other, non-Filipinos are, open to it as well. It's more accepting. So,
Yeah, they would always tell me now, like if there's a party, they're like, "Do you have pancit and the lumpia?"
yes,
Because it's like if
it's
we have
must.
that, they're like, "Can I have that to take home?" They actually take home, and
You
that's the goodie
do?
bag. That's the goodie bag. Actually,
Oh.
no, because we have like small parties now, and it's funny because when we had
Mhm.
my last party is for my 16th birthday for my second one, and she had some of her friends, which is like we only got like a few friends, and it's like we don't. It's like an impromptu party.
Mhm.
So what's your goodie bag? Here's the take home container. You can take home whatever you want.
Was it really?
Yes, and it's so funny because they're like bringing the lumpia and they're like, thank you. And I'm like, what? This is my lunch tomorrow. And of course, I'll be like, don't put it in the microwave, put it in the oven or the air fryer.
Oh yeah, it gets soggy. It's not as crispy and right. Yeah.
Yeah, so they're really like, yeah, they're like, yes, yes. That's
Okay.
all their goodie bag. It's funny. It's all takeout containers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because some of them are working already, like teenagers.
Mhm.
So they're like,
Mhm.
oh, that's my lunch tomorrow. So they're
Yeah.
like, I don't have to, I got good food tomorrow. I said, bring. Oh, it's
Uh,
crazy. But
now,
you
do
know
you have?
what?
Uh-huh. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
but you know what? We're not the only crazy ones.
No. I wanted to ask, in your area, do you have Filipino restaurants, or where's the closest store?
Yeah, we do have the Filipino restaurants, but it's in Piscataway.
Mm, okay.
But I travel all the way to Edison because they have better
Wow.
food. Because they have better food. Because I told my husband, it's like we got the closer, we got a
Hmm.
closest one here. I'm like, it's not worth the calories. I might as well go to the other one.
And you have Jollibee there too, which is good.
Yes, we do have
Uh-huh.
Jollibee in Edison,
Yeah.
and that was a big hit with because we know some of our,
Mhm.
non-Filipino friends. They all went to Jollibee because
Oh.
we're like, oh, you want to go Jollibee, and they're like, yeah, because right now it's still takeout, it's still drive-through.
Mhm.
So
Okay.
they're like, oh, we knew the fried chicken, and everybody
Yeah.
likes the fried chicken.
Uh-huh. And the mango pie.
Oh yeah, the mango pie. They said it's highly addictive.
Mhm.
And it's funny because they thought of ordering lumpia in Jollibee and they don't have it.
No, yeah. But you can get that anywhere. Any Filipino store, pretty much good lumpia.
Oh, think that's sad. How far are you from Atlantic City? Oh, we're far.
Wait, how far? 'Cause-
Atlantic City?
yeah.
Well, I'm in Central Jersey by Bridgewater.
Okay. For us, it's 3 hours.
Maybe it's about 3 hours as well, two and a
For
half.
you too? Oh.
Yeah, because we're closer to Philly.
Oh, you're
We're
more
only
west.
Yes, we're more west. So actually, we're almost yeah, we are close to not
Okay.
really Philly, but we're close to Pennsylvania.
So how close are you to Philly then?
Philly is a bit far. It's like another an hour and a half. But
That's not
Easton,
bad.
yeah,
Mm.
but Easton, Pennsylvania is only like probably 30 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Easton, which is by yeah, it's
Yeah.
somewhere. Yeah.
Hmm.
So
Okay.
so going to the shore is still far.
Yeah.
No. So, if you have any more programs that you want to talk about or you're interested, actually, you know what? So with the languages, what age do you often offer that program?
So for obviously the adults is 18 and older. For the children, we mix it. So during our in-person classes, it's a mixture of language and cultural dance. So we have pretty much 2 or 3 groups, depending on how many kids are enrolled. You have, pretty much the pre-teens, close to teens. That's around 12 to maybe 16. And then the middle group would be around 8 to 12, and then the younger ones. And then we did offer virtual camp one year. I think that was 2019. That one, well, that was like a 2-week summer camp program where you learn about the culture and the language. And we could offer that again also next year for those who are interested. But that is targeted towards the, I guess, 12 years and below. We also have a teenage Tagalog program also. But again, if there's a specific number of people that want to enroll, then we'll offer the teen one as well. So different ages, different groups. So.
Oh, we got one question here. Is remote still available?
I think moving forward, it will always be available. Just because we've been doing it since the start of the pandemic, and we have a good grasp. And it's easy for people who are not close to our vicinity, which is Bergen. I'm here in Bergen County, New Jersey, and then there's Queens. We have location in Queens, Rockland County, New York, Hudson County, New Jersey, which is like near Jersey City. Yeah. And then sometimes Manhattan. And we're hoping to expand into Long Island. That's what we were trying to do before the pandemic. Staten Island is another area, and Brooklyn. So
go more in Jersey. We're just too far in Jersey, because actually that's one of the challenges that they have in our youth program, because it is really far. That's why they like to do the virtual, because everybody can be there at the same time. Okay, another follow-up question there. Where in Queens do you have it?
So at the time we had it, we would rent a dance studio to hold the classes. Before it was, oh boy, it's been a while. The Bayanihan Center, but it's no longer there. There was another Korean space. It was called Nududol. So it was around Woodside. And that's the area we'd like to target because the trains are accessible. And, there's the Filipino restaurants. So after class, the families would go there to eat, or the parents will leave the kids in the class and do their shopping or whatever, and then come back. So we target Woodside or Jamaica. And then for our dance, we actually had classes at the Ilocano Center, which is located in Jamaica off the F train, the very last stop. It's still there, it's open, but again, when we resume in-person classes, we will go there as well. So yeah.
That's good. So there you go. Yeah, big community in Woodside. Yeah, I know. It's a Filipino community in there.
Yes.
My kids got culture shock in there. They thought like we're in the Philippines.
Well, I used to live there too.
Because they would see like, oh, everybody's Filipino.
Yes.
And they're like, we could hear them speaking. And I said, how do you know they're not Chinese? They're like, we could hear them speaking Tagalog. Yeah, so that is so nice. It's really nice chatting with you, Venessa.
Thank you, Rochie. It's been a while, and I'm so glad to be here and just to, share more about Filipino culture.
I know, especially now with the Olympics, and we had their first medal. Yeah,
so awesome.
Actually, I was telling them maybe I would get another topic. It's about, Filipinas, like in the Philippines. Because most people, I think one of the topic that we wanted is like strong Filipinas. Because it's funny because it's like the first gold came from a girl, right?
In weightlifting.
In weightlifting.
Literally strong.
Actually, I googled her because
Uh-huh.
it was what 100 something kilograms or what that
Yeah,
she
like
carried.
200 pounds. Yeah.
Yeah, over 200 pounds.
Yes.
And then
Mhm.
when I googled, she's only 4'11".
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, she's
See,
tiny.
I googled it like because I was like I'm just
Yeah.
curious if she lifted 200 pounds. So what is
Mhm.
her weight? And her weight is just
Yeah.
55 kilograms, right?
Mhm.
So it's just like 120 pounds. So I said,
Yeah.
how big is this person? And I'm like,
Mhm.
4'11". Are you kidding me?
She's amazing.
I
I
know,
mean,
right?
yeah, I'm so happy for her.
Me too. I mean, it's
Yeah.
fun, and
Mhm.
next time, and my kids have told me there's a lot of
Yeah.
athletes right now
Mhm.
or competing, and I said it's good because
Yeah.
it gives them something to look forward to.
Mhm.
Like I'm Filipino, I can do this, because
Right.
it's one of those that inspires the kids, right?
Mhm. Like role models, like someone like
Mm-hmm.
them.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because
I think
it's
sorry, I think there's also a Filipina. She's not full, but she was on the USA team for fencing. I
yes,
don't know her
she
name, but
won.
she
She
won, right?
won. Yeah, I,
Yeah.
yeah. I forgot her name, but she got an American last name,
Yes. Yep.
but she does look Filipino.
Yes.
Actually.
She looks mixed.
And there's more. There's one that's I think one of the swimmers is actually a Filipino American as well.
Oh, okay.
Actually, there was a list. I
Okay.
haven't that. There was a list. I think like 6 athletes are actually
Hmm.
half Filipino.
For the American teams?
Yes.
Ah,
Mm,
okay. Huh. I gotta
that's
look for
fun.
that.
Yeah. So it's curious, right? Like you're gonna show your kid Filipino pride.
Yes, always.
Yeah. So thank you so much, Vanessa.
Thank
It's
you again.
so fun to have you. See, we could extend it for
I
another
know.
hour, right?
I know.
And we're not gonna be done. So that means we're gonna have another episode, a part two, right? So, guys, thank you so much
You're welcome.
for
Thank you,
joining us.
everyone.
Yeah, thank you so much. If you are going to watch it
Mhm.
on replay on YouTube, guess what? You can still put on your comments or your questions
Yeah.
because we would try to go back and try to answer them either
Mhm.
on video or just typing it in the comments.
Yes.
So, again, guys, I will put the information of the Filipino School of New York and New
Mhm.
Jersey in the description box. And if you have any questions, feel free to communicate, email Vanessa, and she's more than happy to tell you more about the school, right? So,
Yes,
with
of
that,
course.
guys, thank you so much for joining us and see you again next week for another episode of Getting Candid with Rochie. Bye,
Okay.
guys.
Bye.